Ted Bundy. In 1971, Ted Bundy was a regular student at the University of Washington. He studied, cooked, and, like many college students, had a job. Just so happens this job was at the Seattle Suicide Hotline Center. That's right, notorious serial killer Bundy spent his college years encouraging people not to end their lives. Former cop and author Ann Rule said at the time of his arrest that Bundy took lives, but also saved lives. While it might seem crazy that a murderer would spend his time basically doing the opposite of killing people, it does sort of make sense. Clinical and forensic psychologist Daryl Turner believes the job might have actually made Bundy a more skilled killer. It gave him insight into the kinds of things vulnerable people need to hear to be persuaded to make such a major decision. As someone who made a life study of manipulating other people, I think that it makes sense that he would get a job like that, Turner said. Ivan the Terrible. To get stuck with the Terrible as your moniker, you've got to be pretty bad. And Ivan the Terrible was. From executing civilians in order to gain land to murdering his own son, Ivan has not gone down well in history. But from a government perspective, he actually wasn't so horrible. He created the Russian version of parliament, reformed church practices, and significantly expanded Russian lands. As the first Tsar of Russia, Ivan significantly expanded the Russian state during his reign from 1547–1584. He initiated a series of military campaigns, most notably against the Khanates of Kazan, Astrakhan, and Siberia, which were remnants of the Mongol Empire. By conquering these regions, he extended Russia's territory eastward and southward, gaining control over the Volga River and opening up access to the Caspian Sea. Ivan's expansion efforts also included attempts to establish a foothold in the Baltic region, though his efforts were largely unsuccessful against the Livonian Order and other European powers. Though the word terrible at the time meant fearsome or formidable, not necessarily bad, the nickname has certainly stuck in a way Ivan probably wouldn't love. Andrew Jackson, President. Andrew Jackson is infamous in American history for leading the Trail of Tears, which between 1830 and 1850 displaced 60,000 Native Americans from their ancestral homes and forced them in a cruel march across the country. In addition to this, Jackson's rough personality and habit of nominating his friends to cabinet positions they were unqualified for has earned him a spot on many lists of the worst U.S. presidents. Despite all this, Jackson did have one huge upside. He paid off the national debt for the first and only time in American history. Of course, then the economy tanked thanks to Jackson's opposition to a central bank. Interestingly, on the side of the good, Jackson did adopt a young Native American child and raised him as his own after his mother was killed in a village raid during the Creek War. On the other hand, the Creek War was perpetuated by Jackson. Some historians say it's likely Jackson only adopted the child in an attempt to earn sympathy from the local Native Americans and not out of the goodness of his heart. Napoleon Bonaparte is mostly known for his attempts to take over Europe, maybe even the world. Under his rule, it is estimated that 1.3 million French civilians died during his military campaigns throughout the late 1790s and into the 1810s. These gigantic numbers overshadow some of the good that happened during Napoleon's rule, most notably the Napoleonic Codes. These allowed for more equality within French law, and were a stepping stone toward abolishing the brutal feudal system which had crippled lower-class French people for centuries.